Hello people, and welcome to day one of our Art with Miss Miller. Today we are going to be working out of this book, 365 Days of Drawing by Lorna Scobie. You can find this book online. You do not need this book to do the different art activities that we're going to do, because I'll show you what's in the book. I'll show you the page, and then you can just follow along in whatever you have at home. But if you do want to find this book's about $20. It might be less depending on where you find it. I think it's a pretty amazing resource because it has a different drawing prompt for every single day of the year. So there's 365 prompts. There's all these different things inside this book. It's so exciting. So we are going to be starting on day 3 of 365 Days of Drawing. I already filmed day 1, but the video ended up being a little bit harder than I meant, so I'm going to save that one for a little bit from now, and we're going to start on day 3. So I'm going to open this up to day 3, and we're going to get started drawing right now. All right, let's get started. So we're going to be turning to page 3, and I have actually made the video for day 1, but we're not going to start there. It ended up being a little bit more advanced than I meant to, so we're going to start on day 3. And day 3 is all about drawing a tree. I'm going to read you the prompt. It says, use the opposite page to draw trees. Use any materials you like. So you could use crayon, colored pencil, you could use normal pencil, you could use markers, you could use, you could use all kinds of different materials. I'm not going to keep going, but technically, basically anything could be an art supply. So you do you. Start with the trunk. So that's the part that's down here at the bottom. Start with the trunk and branches, and then add the leaves or flowers. Then there's a tip down here. Sorry, I'll move it over a little bit. It says, trees can appear to be complex to draw or hard to draw. So instead of looking at it as a whole, instead of looking at the tree as a whole all together, simplify it into its basic shape. Carefully add in the branches from thick to thin, where you see them, starting with the trunk. So you start with the trunk, make it a little bit thicker, and then it gets thin. Don't worry about capturing every detail, as just a few lines can be used to describe the essence of the tree, or like the spirit, the being of the tree. Whoa. Okay, so I am going to be using some colored pencils. These are the colored pencils that I had on hand. That's what I decided to use today because I've been using a lot of crayons in my drawings. So I was like, hey, let's try some colored pencils. So I'm going to start with brown. And I'm going to give myself some room because I know that I want to draw at least 2 trees. So I'm not going to start right in the middle and make my drawing the entire space. If you only want to draw 1 tree, knock yourself out. Use your whole space for your tree. I want to give myself a little bit of room so I can play a little bit. So I'm going to try and do like maybe 1 tree here and 1 tree here. I'm going to try and give like half the space to each tree. So it told us to simplify these trees into their basic shapes. So the first thing it said was just start with the trunk. And if you notice this trunk, it's not a perfect line. It's kind of these little sketchy lines that sometimes it's lighter, sometimes it's darker. That helps give the tree a look like it's in real space, like it's 3-dimensional. If it were all just colored in super, super dark, it wouldn't be as interesting to look at as these lines that are a little bit more loose and sketchy, which is great for us because it means that we don't have to be perfect in our detail for it to look pretty good. So I'm going to start with my basic shape. My tripod is a little bit in the way for where I want my arm to be. Okay, I'm going to wrap it around. So I'm going to start with the trunk, and I'm going to keep my lines kind of loose and sketchy. I'm not even really going to pay that much attention to what I'm doing. I'm just going to feel kind of where do I want a darker spot, where do I want a lighter spot. I think I made this tree a little bit bigger than I meant to. That is okay. So I've got kind of my base trunk going on. I like how that looks. So now I'm going to start adding on some branches, and I always, when I draw trees, get stuck on the branches because I often will kind of draw my trunk And then it's like, you know that you want to spread your branches across the tree so that it makes that kind of round shape. But real trees don't have branches that stick straight out. They are more organic shapes. They kind of take different paths, they turn, and that's another thing I do. See how that looks like stairs? It starts off okay because it's like, oh yeah, see, it's organic. It's going to go in a different direction. But then I go the same length and go up the same length. This is actually reminding me of algebra. So you don't want your branch to look like that because a tree branch does not look like this. That would look super crazy if it did. You want your tree branch to look more like it goes out in a direction and then it breaks off somewhere. And maybe there's like a little stick guy coming off. Maybe that's where I stop. Because I can feel myself wanting to put something here. And that's because I keep wanting to balance it. If something goes this direction, something's going to go this direction. And then here, and then here. No, thank you. That's not how organic shapes actually work. So, bloop. I'm going to try to just really not think about it and work past my brain, who's going to want to control everything that I'm doing. Okay, I'm going to leave that. I can always come back to it, right? I can always put more detail on that. But I'm going to try and do it again. So a little bit thicker down near the trunk because that's where the branch is going to be the oldest. So it's the thickest if you think about like those tree rings going on inside. Branches have tree rings too. And so the thicker part is going to be down here by the trunk. That's why that part's thicker. And I'm going to leave that one too because I can feel myself trying to control it. I want to see if I start from this direction. Okay. I didn't realize that line was going to be that long. It's okay. We're just going to bring you over here like this. I'm going to thicken the line now because it still needs to be thicker. And that just made my tree a little bit longer. And I hate, well, sorry, that's such not the word I meant to say. I don't love the direction this branch is going, so I'm going to keep trying to work with it and see if I can get it. Because most likely a branch isn't going to grow straight down like that. But I think if I just kind of keep going, it'll be okay. It looks a little weird, but that's okay. I bet when we put some leaves and things on it, it'll start to look a little bit more natural, like it belongs there. Okay, so I'm noticing again, I've got some balance going on. There's one on this side, there's one on this side, and there's one in the middle. So I want to again try and push myself to not make this. I'm gonna look at this model over here, and I kind of like how this limb starts to grow up, but then it has this part that comes out even further. And I'm gonna kind of use that as a guide, but I think I also want my own branch to do its own thing. I don't want to completely copy it, but I do love the motion that it has. And I think I'll have a little branch coming off to the side. This is gonna, as I'm building this part, it helps hide this weird angle of this branch because it gives your eye more things to focus on. So I'm just gonna give a little bit more depth to some of these branches. And honestly, like, right, I'm just kind of scribbling right now. These are just short, little, fast, scribbly strokes, which are perfect for branches. So I kind of like how this is looking, and I'm gonna just, boop. I just want to give myself a few more of these little twiglets that are just barely starting to grow. Okay, I'm gonna stop. While I'm ahead. Okay, so I have my basic tree shape down, and now I want to think about if I want to put leaves on it, if I want to put flowers on it. Usually trees bloom before they have leaves on them, so that's why this is kind of, oh, I'm not taking phone calls right now. That's why this part looks like it's either flower or a leaf, is because they're showing that this type of tree, it would kind of bloom first, and after the blooms go away, then it starts to grow leaves. You could have both. There are definitely trees that have both leaves and flowers, so you decide. Also, I was doing this with my class earlier this week, and we talked about how your tree doesn't even have to have real things on it. Your tree could be growing burgers. Your tree could be growing kittens. One of the kids was like, could it be growing money? Like, yeah, that is a saying. Money doesn't grow on trees. So you could be making a tree that does grow money. My tree, I think it's in my sketchbook. My tree was growing pizza. So you can have your tree growing whatever you want. I think I'm going to have one tree growing something unusual, and maybe one tree that is just more normal tree. So I want to do some blossoms, and I'm not quite sure what color this is really going to be when I start drawing with it, but we'll see. So one of the ways that I like to make flowers is you kind of, let me see if I can zoom in. You make these kind of loopy shapes. You can kind of see that. And you just kind of keep making those little loops. And eventually, it makes it look like a little flower. So I am just going to kind of make some of these. May go in and add a little bit of a darker color on top of it, but I'm just gonna add some flowers in here. And this is another moment where you want to make sure to not be go too heavy and like cover all of your lines that you just spent so much time making in flowers. So I'm going to try to not go super crazy. I also feel like these are a little bigger than I intended, but I don't know where my pencil sharpener is right now. So I'm just going to adjust by making them a little bit smaller. And maybe that makes sense for these smaller branches. Maybe they wouldn't grow as big of a flower. I don't know. So I'm noticing right now that my tree looks a little bit more bare than I meant for it to. So I'm gonna add some more branches. I'm gonna see about using this lighter color, but it might be a little bit too yellow. Not sure. You can always keep adding to your drawing. Oops. But you can't take things away, especially if you're using colored pencil or marker or basically anything other than a pencil. That's why it's really good to go slow and add on to your drawing as you go. It's not always the best technique. Sometimes it's better to know exactly what's going to be in your drawing before you start. But if you can, like I was able to kind of step back and look at where my branch placements were and say, actually, I think I could do a little bit more. but I had that option because I didn't go super crazy to begin with. Maybe these ones have slightly darker flowers. I'm going to add this color into some of my original blossoms so that it doesn't feel like these flowers don't belong. I'll also give just a little bit more depth to these flowers, more realistic. Maybe you only add a second color to half the flower. What does that do to your drawing? Sometimes you can play also with how our eye perceives shadow and light. Like if you put the darker color on the bottom of the flower and the lighter color on the top, it will make the bottom part look like it is shadow in shadow, and the top part will look like it has light coming from that angle across all of the flowers. So it will give some depth. Interesting. I just looked at the drawing in the iPad and I like how these branches, they look like they're in the background. I was kind of hoping that would happen if I made it a lighter color. I was hoping that these ones would feel kind of like they're further away and the darker ones would feel like they're closer. I'm gonna try to blend it a little bit more into the body just by darkening the part where it grows out of the base of the trunk. I still want it to feel like it's kind of pushed back. I'm just gonna add a teeny bit going up. And I'll just help bring that all in. Oh yeah, that looks way, way better. See, this branch still looks like it's kind of behind this one, especially because we have darker, then lighter, a little teeny bit of dark, a little teeny bit of dark, and then lighter and a teeny bit of dark. That helps give it that feeling like that branch is behind and this branch is in front of. And it also actually helps make that weird angle of that branch look a lot better. So I think I'm going to be done with that tree, especially because I wanted to try and make two. And I'm going to move this back out. And now I'm going to do my second tree. I'm going to try and do this one pretty fast because I wanted to keep this a shorter video. So I think on this one, how am I going to do the branches though? I wanted to try and think about a trunk. I wanted to put some pattern on it, which is why I'm drawing it this way instead of sketching it. And I want to put some knots in the wood. This is definitely not how knots actually look in wood, but we are artists, so we can say they look like whatever we want them to. This is our tree. And now I'm going to just start tracing these paths. This is definitely not a technique that I've done before, so I'm not really sure what this is going to end up looking like. Adventures in art making. So my trunk looks okay. Now, I'm not sure how to continue the branches this way, because I really need to plan out where my branches are going to go. And I think this is probably where I'm going to make it look kind of weird. But I'm going to try and think about these same things of keeping those branches loose. I want to try to not make a weird angle that was super harsh like that, even though trees do look like that. Now that there are more branches, it helps make that hard angle look a lot more natural. So I guess that does make me feel a little bit better. But I'm going to try to think about how would these shapes work. That's a very, very long branch for how big this tree trunk is. That is hilarious. Okay. I had a feeling this was where it was going to get really weird and cartoony looking. But so what? Okay, one thing I should do is that, so if we look at this tree, this branch right here is the continuation of the trunk. From the top of this branch to the bottom of the trunk, this is a straight, well, relatively straight line going up and down. I want to think about where is that branch going to be here. So I'm just going to create that so that I have it, and everything else can be built around this central. And I'm going to try and make it really twig-like at the top. Maybe. Let's have this part grow off. And then we'll have another, maybe it is a nice branch. That would be a great branch to sit on. Have some picnic vibes. I guess it's a little unstable now. Okay, I'm feeling good about this right now. I can't even tell you how much I have struggled with making branches that I did not hate, which I'm really trying, right, as part of my own growth mindset around art. Even as good as I am, I think the sad thing about artists is that the better you get, the harder you are on yourself. So the more you want to be even better, you want to try this new art, or you want to push yourself in a new way. And so we tend to be pretty hard on ourselves because we're always measuring things that we can't do yet instead of the things that we have been able to learn. So I'm trying really hard personally, which is actually part of why I'm doing these videos, is that I'm trying really hard to be really kind to myself about my art. And I'm actually seeing that my art is growing a lot more as I'm being kind to myself, because I'm letting myself do more art. And so my art is growing, and then I'm kinder to myself, so I want to do more, and it all just keeps growing and growing and growing. So truthfully, a growth mindset, not what you can't do around art, but what are the things you have already learned? And what are the things that you're still learning, or what are the things that you want to learn? There might be things where you're like, oh, I don't know how to do this thing. Do you even care? Is that a thing that you actually want to do? Or is it a thing that somebody's made you feel like you should be able to do? Because those are two really different things. And if it's something that you want to do, then how are you going to get better at it? Instead of just being upset that you're not as good as you want to be, you can spend your whole life being upset that you're not as good as you want to be. Trust me, I've done it a lot with a lot of different things. So what choices are you going to make so that you can be as great as you know you can be? Yeah, it takes a lot of practice. Your hand you aren't born just knowing how to do all these things. But if you can use your growth mindset, you can learn how to do them. You just need to take that perfectionism and be like, no thanks, bye-bye. You can go sit in the corner right now. I don't need you right now. I'm okay with my mistakes. They're going to teach me something. I'm good. Thanks, perfectionism. Okay, so I just added a couple of little knots in so that I could keep this same texture as from below. And then I'm just continuing to kind of trace the pattern that I made. I know that it's right in the shadow of my little camera light. So I'm just tracing these lines, and they don't need to be perfect. A little wavy is actually great because that's how trees really are. Their textures are very irregular. It's not like perfect stripe, perfect stripe, perfect stripe. That would be so weird if you saw a tree that just had perfect lines going up and down it. You'd be like, am I in a video game right now? This does not feel like the earth. Do, 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 do. I'm thinking right now about what's gonna grow on my branches now that I'm almost done. Getting those ideas percolating. Okay, I've got my tree. It's got this interesting twisty bark texture that I'm kinda into. Thinking about, I'm gonna shade down here, see what happens. I kind of like that. So I think I'm gonna just shade part, like I was talking about. If we just shade part, it's gonna make it look like the shadows on this side of the tree and the tree's being lit from this direction. So it just kind of gives it a feeling like it's really somewhere and there's light. So on the bottom of the branches, it's gonna be darker. And since I made this side of the tree darker down here, I'm gonna make this side of this branch darker to keep that same lighting happening. If the top of the branch was darker on this side, it would make the sun be coming from this direction. But then down here, the sun's coming from this direction, which is why the shadow is over here. So if you put a shadow on something, just make sure it's consistent. So I'm putting a shadow down this entire side of the tree so that the sun is coming from this direction across the whole tree. Again, super simple trick, but it makes it look so much more realistic. And all you're doing is using that same color to just darken a few strategic places. And then, ta-da, you have a more three-dimensional tree. Okay, cool. So, I'm thinking that this is going to be my favorite things to eat. Tree! I'm not quite sure how I'm going to draw that, but I'm just going to start. So, I think... Ooh, where should that be hanging from? I think I want right here, I'm gonna make this part spaghetti noodles. I love pasta. Pasta is my favorite. Doesn't matter what culture it comes from. Does not matter as long as it's some type of noodle, pasta, it's me. It's for me. One of my favorite places in the university district is just called Noodle Nation. Okay, so I've got these delicious noodles. Oh my gosh, I can't. I wish this was a real tree already. I have these noodles hanging from this tree. I wonder, I would love to put some marinara sauce in it, but I'm wondering if it would make it look bloody. I'm gonna leave it for right now, and I'll put some other foods on, and we'll see what happens as I add more food. Okay, I'm gonna obviously put, and I do want to be really careful because I know these parts can really easily hang a piece of food. And I want to think about what are the types of foods I'm putting and where can some of them be placed so that I can leave the hanging spots for things that really need that. I also need to think about like what all am I trying to draw right now? I want to put, I wonder, actually, this is kind of funny. I'm going to try and put a little taco right here, like it's actually sitting inside. Not sure if it will end up working, but I want to try. I'm going to not color it in too much, hoping that this might be a really bad idea. I'm going to use some black pen to try to, yeah, no, I don't like that idea. Because I was thinking about putting like a black line underneath it so that you could see it better against this tree branch, but it would have looked really weird to have like a harsh black line on just one part of it. So I've got my little, and I actually like corn tortillas, so that's my little corn tortilla. And then I get pollo. Wait, except this is very important. It has pineapple in it, and the pineapple goes on the bottom. Oh gosh. So there's grilled pineapple on the bottom. Oh my gosh, yum. And then there is the pollo, the chicken. And then there's onions and cilantro. No, I want the darker green. So cute. You can't see it at all, but it's so cute. Maybe if I use the black pencil. Just want to try to define it so you can see it more sitting in there. I knew it would be hidden. Okay, it's okay. We know it's there. Little pollo taco sitting right there. Okay, so I've got my little taco. I'm gonna make what I eat every morning, almost. I make myself a breakfast sandwich. I'm gonna start with the egg in the middle so that I can build everything else around it. Okay, so I have my little egg, and then I like to put ham on top of it, or a turkey sausage patty. And it has like little rosemary flecks on the ham. So good. And then it's on a little toasted bagel. Boop. Oops, the top is too big. It's okay. And I'm just gonna make some kind of rounded lines because that's gonna help make this bun look like it's round. Is if we make a curved line that then gets a little bit straight in the middle and then curves again the other direction. That makes it look a little bit more three-dimensional. So there is my bagel breakfast sandwich. Make the bottom look a little bit bigger so that it goes with the top. Okay, bagel breakfast sandwich, check. Now I know that I want to have a slice of pizza that is hanging off of one of these pieces. Let's make it coming off of this one. I'm going to start with the crust. And I'm wondering if I can make it have like a sense of movement with how the cheese part is hanging. It's going to be touching this branch down here. Let's see if I can make it. It might look totally weird. Okay. And again, there's a theme here. My favorite Pagliacci pizza, I go, well, not quite every Tuesday, I try to. I love to go on Tuesdays because they have in-house Hawaiian pizza slice day. So on Tuesdays, I try to go to Pagliacci so that I can get some Hawaiian pizza. It's so good. Fresh pineapple, not canned. Yes, delicious. Okay, put these toppings on here. And then I want to give it a little bit of marinara sauce because we all know. You can always see a little bit of marinara sauce here and there. It's part of the deliciousness. Okay, and I just want a little bit of color going on here because obviously I've got the pineapple on there. Maybe I'll use a little orange. Okay. Got my pizza slice. And oh no, again, 36-minute long video. I tried. Okay, well, I feel like I could do so much more on my favorite foods tree, but I'm gonna stop because I was really trying to make this a 20-minute long video. So here were my two different types of trees. I had my tree that was growing different favorite types of food, and I had a more traditional like cherry blossom tree. So these are two different ways to draw trees. You can draw your trees however you want to though. And I am going to show you after I finish this video. There are some drawings that my students did, so you can see how when we did this assignment as room 113, you can see how some of my students drew their trees, and that will be coming up right after we stop. So thanks for hanging out and doing some drawing. I hope that you experimented with some tree branches, and maybe you drew a traditional tree, maybe you drew a tree that was growing all kinds of different things. I would love to know. Well, until next time, people, peace out.